All right, everybody, we're going to do a demo real quick here. We're going to be looking at our next assignment, which is working on the loading dock for the 106 class. So what we're going to be doing right now is I've already went ahead and I posted up here the background of the assignment, the guidelines, and I've actually put up samples, some wonderful samples I found online with some great concept art of loading docks. And this is up here for reference for you. We're going to pretend right now you're inside a studio environment. You've been given these assignments, and this is the concept art, and your director and your art director has asked you to go through here and mock up some type of a loading dock that's mimicking the reference from the material that's been placed here in this concept art. Okay, so real quick, let's just take a look at some of these, and I'll tell you some of the strengths in these and what I like about them. In this particular piece of art right here, I think what's really nice is look at the loading docks and how they're split into 3 different variations. It almost looks very much similar to like some type of an open marina where a ship might pull in there. So I thought that was a really clever idea. I don't like the camera angle being this far out, but this would be a great idea for you to set up in terms of a dock. Interpret this as a large dock with a large ship shape in here, and then you can have a camera looking from back here in the direction of the ship. Okay, this is a great example right here, looking at a very large scale ship. We have scale of some people that are walking around in this environment, and then we have some other foreground and midground elements that display a lot of depth with, you know, machinery pieces and overlapping elements that look like there's some type of structure and dedicated loading dock environment around the ship here. I put this one up here because there's a really nice, I like the curved angles in there. Again, anytime you develop and display any type of elliptical shape arrangement inside your environments, you're going to come across with a much better design. So I thought that was really nice, nice elements to integrate into a piece. Again, here's another piece here that's really fantastic. It has another large ship, and to indicate scale here and size relationships, we have a couple smaller ships around here. And I mentioned in the very intro here is that it's your decision on how you want to display your large ship shape. Okay, how is it interacting with the environment? Is it landing? Could it have already landed? Is it refueling? Is it leaving? Is it dropping off cargo? Is it loading cargo? That's up to you on any particular ideas that you might come across. And yes, you can use the G.I. Joe and Cobra vehicles that you've already used previously that you modeled. However, we're going to be taking off the G.I. Joe and the Cobra symbols off of those vehicles, so it's not related to that. Okay? All right, so the first thing that we want to do is use this reference to sort of guide us along. I thought this was an interesting angle here. Look at how there's a guy down here and he's working on the ship. Imagine if there was a giant mothership behind him here, and we're under this sort of hangar that might be set up inside a loading dock environment. That could be an angle that you can work with. You could model a little robot if you wanted to, and it could be working on one of your previous vehicles you've already designed, and then in the back we see this large shape. Okay, something to think about would be this: the amount of detail on the large ship is going to depend upon where you set that up inside our environment. So if we establish that directly in the foreground, we want to have a lot of nice detail in that, versus if we end up having our ship in the midground, we can still have quite a bit of nice detail, but we might subdue it a little bit. And if our ship ends up being further in the background, well, we can get away with having a lighter ship with less detail. Okay, it's up to you in the way that you arrange it. And so what we're going to do is, after looking at some of this concept art, we're going to start talking about the arrangement of our set and coming up with some ideas and some variations on how we can compose this environment. All right, I thought this is really cool because look at this. This gives you the indicated feeling that the ship's either leaving or it's about to land. Okay, because it has these mechanical claws down here below, and the ship is definitely red hot, and it looks like it's either, I think it's sort of coming in because I see steam coming down there, and I like that atmospheric perspective that they've sort of placed in here. And then you have these large buildings in the back. Okay, and I really thought this was a nice tonal study that was done. Again, what a great, you know, here's a good example of having that ship in the midground. Okay, right here in the foreground we have some type of a large plane service that gets us out there, some type of a, you know, walking plane or open loading dock. There's some simple piping and ducting underneath here, and any of you guys could do something like this. Just create simple pipes and ducts, put that underneath, and then you have a ship in here, and these are all visual cues that add to the overall composition that we're looking at. Okay, so with that set aside now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. I'm going to move that window to the side. Let's move over here. Here are just some rough parts that I've quickly made in Maya. Okay, and again, this is what we're going to do now is set up a rough blocking of arrangement of shapes to figure out what is the best composition for us, okay, to start modeling off of. It's a lot easier to work this way than it is to sort of just start modeling intensively and come up with perhaps too many props and too many ideas that are going to overweight our set. So first thing I'm going to do right now is I have a couple key ideas of what I wanted to do. I made this large ship shape right here, and I'm going to just expand it and make it a little bit larger. Okay, even perhaps something about here. Okay, so there's my large ship shape. And then what I did is I modeled a couple little variations of that. These could be some of my smaller ship shapes. Okay, now you'll notice if I come in here and if I have these smaller ship shapes about this size right here, what's happening here is I'm going to lose part of the attraction of, I'm going to lose part of the attraction of this being a larger ship. Why? Because the scale relationship of these two ships is so much larger and similar, it doesn't have the same visual appeal. Versus if I come in here and if I take these smaller ship shapes and if I shrink these down and I get them down to a scale that's somewhere similar to about right here, okay, let me ungroup that, there we go. I didn't mean to grab that, let me move that out of the way. Now if I come up and I zoom up on these, can you see the difference in scale? How much more magnified that large ship shape is? So that's extremely important for me, okay, to think about. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just start moving some pieces around, and I'm going to block up a rough idea for a set. Okay, one of the things that I like to do when I work is I'm going to go in there, I'm going to create another camera, and I'm going to use that camera as a key focal point, and then I could come back into my perspective view and move ships around accordingly to block in my scene. Okay, so I'm going to come down here under Create, and I'm going to go over to Cameras, and I'm just going to create a base camera. In the center of my grid, I'm going to have this camera that's created, and if I come over and look, if I open up my outliner really quick in Maya, I can come over here and I could label this, double click on it, I could call it main. And I really like to do that because now when I'm working inside my scene here, okay, if I want to see what my main view is doing, I could come over to panels, perspective, and I can go right into main, and I can get a better idea of what this is looking at. While I'm in my main view, I'm going to go ahead and come over here, and I'm going to tell it to give me the, under view here, I want to get the camera gate up, the resolution gate. So under camera settings, view, camera settings, resolution gate, I go ahead and I set up this nice shot. Now, I'm going to come in and adjust that because right now my render default settings, I'm going to have probably a squared off shape, and I want to put it back. Yeah, I'm on 640 by 480. I want to drop this down to HD 720 right now. That way I can get a good idea of what that camera is looking at. Okay, then I can just hit the space bar and then right click, go back to perspective view, and I can start working on my scene, and then I'll come back to that dedicated main view, and I'll start arranging my shapes and positioning them to come up with the best composition. Okay, so give me a minute. I'm going to pause the video here for a second, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so what I've done really quick here, I have part of a rough scene mocked up here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you something really quick here where we can come up over and we can create multiple views to look through. That way I can always be looking through this option right here. So if I open up my panels right now and I go to Layouts, and what I can do is I can go to 3 panels stacked. Okay, so I can go to 3 panels split left. I can even go to 2 panels, but then it's a little too symmetrical for me. So if I do 3 panels split left like this, what it does is it gives me sort of a layout, and what I can do is I can adjust this. Okay, I actually want this to be my perspective view right here. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to indicate under here perspective that this is going to be my main view of the camera. So this way I'm working in this view, and then this right here I can make this my orthographic top view. So if I want, I can grab anything in my scene real quick and I can move it around and I can see how it's being affected in my key view. Okay, so again, how did I get there? Let's pretend I'll go back here. I went under Layouts right here, Panels, Layouts, and there's going to be 3 panels split top, split left, bottom, however you want to do it. Let's say I did 3 pane split to the top view right here. I'm going to come over here. I want to make one larger view, my key perspective view. So I actually want to go back to what I had before. Let me go ahead and see where that was. I believe it was 3 panels split to the left. There we go. So here's my core perspective view. And again, if you don't like that view, I can come back in here and change it to main. But I didn't want that to be main because I want to have one open view that I can see what I'm doing. And that's my working view here. Those of you that have dual monitors, this is great, where you can create one view over on the other side, come back and work in the perspective view. It's up to you. So here we go. I'm going to put perspective. So now what I can do is I can come in here, move around, modify, and then I can look at see how my scene's looking here. But what I want to try to do is not move my camera too much more. I want to get it set up exactly where I sort of like it. Okay. So right there, I like this idea. I accidentally just zoomed in there, and I have what's a foreground element here. So now I can come over here and I can take that foreground element, see, and I can move it in front of that camera. And I sort of like the angle of that. It looks like it's some type of a large loading dock. And then what I can do is I can grab one of those ships that I already modeled. And this is a great benefit of having your top view here, is you can just hit F on your top view and zoom in and find that ship, and you can move it around a little bit easier. Same principle of using your perspective view here. So now I can move that in. Okay, I'm going to get that, drop that down where I can see it right here. Okay, and it's going to be quite large right now, but that's okay. I'm going to adjust it in a second here. There we go. So go ahead, let me swing that around right now. I'm going to drop that ship down about right there. Okay. Get it into the composition there. So I could have that ship look like it's part of this loading dock, and then I could come over here, take my key loading dock, and I sort of had this idea of having some type of a large structure shape like this that might be connected somehow, and then have my large ship shape in the back there. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to really enlarge my ship shape to have it be a real large integral part of my composition right now. Okay, and let's go ahead, I'm going to come over here, duplicate this, sort of put it in the middle here, scale it down. So again, remember, I am working really rough right now. I'm not going for detail, I'm going for just blocking out shapes. Try that one more time. There we go. My hotkeys were getting in the way there. There we go. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to bring this down here. Let's go over here. There we go. So I'm going to group this all into one shape now. Group. Okay. All right. So now what I can do is I can see how that's going to interact. This might be, part of my overall composition, where I was thinking this is part of the loading dock arm, and again, this is real rough. So let me move that into my composition, see what it looks like. That's pretty cool. So I might decide to angle up my composition, pull back a little bit. So if I move that shape back a little, that's looking pretty nice. But now I can decide, how do I want to use this ship that I have right here? Do I want my ship to be at this angle, or do I need my ship to sort of be turned like this? Okay, these are all decisions that are going to affect part of my composition. So let me pull back. Let's get part of that. There we go. Okay. So that was the initial shot I was sort of at, was about right there. So look at that. If I grab that large ship shape and I bring it here into the front now, you see that difference in the indication of scale that's going to start to happen? So I could look at that and decide, do I really like this angle right now? Or do I want to pull back a little bit? Do I want to get this ship to come back a little bit into the foreground? Okay, and so that could be one option for me. That could be one composition right there, and I could decide from that if I like that the most. I can, do I want to work from there? So let's say that's not. Let's say I want to do another variation. Okay, I could save the scene right now as version 1, which I'll do, and then I can create another scene and call it version 2. Okay. I try not to do more than about 5 versions, guys. It's going to save your time. So I'm going to call this my dock scene, okay, version 1. Right in here. Hit save. One minute there. There we go. Version 1. Hit save right now. Okay. And now I'm going to come in really quick and I'm going to create version 2. Okay, so now on version 2, I'm wondering what would happen if I did that looking at my reference. What if I had that side view shot? So let me just go ahead. I'm going to duplicate a piece that I have in here. I want to bring it over to this side. What if I turn this a little bit? Oops. So now I'm just going to model something up totally different. See what I come up with. What if I end up rotating this? Again, anytime you rotate stuff, get them off of 90s, it can be really interesting. You never know what you're going to get. Okay. I created this shape right here. It could be some type of a round supporting landing pad. It can be a secondary pad. It could be an energy pad. Who knows what. So let me go ahead. I'm going to shrink this down. Have it underneath here. I'm going to grab some vertices real quick on this. Okay. That could be maybe some type of support. Maybe I end up bringing that part of that in the background here. So far, I'm about 15 minutes into this with rough shapes, nothing fancy. Okay, I'm going to group these two together really quick. And what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to come over, take that camera. I'm going to look at this from another angle because I already saw something that I like. Okay, I like this V shape in here and that composition. This is turned at another angle. The ship's there. There's another supporting building behind it. So I'm going to take my camera real quick. I'm going to say touch it, and then I'm just going to say look through selected under panels. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to bring this back over to this type of angle. Sort of get locked up on my ship right about here. Give me 1 second. I notice I have, under the presets here, something else selected. I don't want the gate mask. Let's do that again. Camera settings. No gate. There we go. That's what I wanted, was right there. Okay? So there. That looks pretty cool. Just wondering if I get that, would that be a fun angle to have? Would I want to be looking down low, looking down on it? Okay. So let me get something about right there. All right. Now what I did, I switched back to my angle here. Okay. And let's go back to the panels here. Make sure I'm on my perspective. There we go. And now I'm going to grab that little front piece. And what if I bring this into my immediate foreground? So again, remember I just gave you guys a little bit of a lecture about foreground, midground, and background. Okay, about creating some spatial depth inside my plane. So by having that a ship shape way over here in the foreground that's really small, and then having some other small ship shapes around there, that's one way I can start to create a little bit of depth inside my piece. Also, now if I come over here and I have these other smaller ship shapes around the ship, maybe they look like they're servicing it. Maybe they're fixing, flying to it, dropping off supplies. They can be doing like 10 different things, okay? All right. I'm going to pause for a second and adjust a couple things. Okay, so as I continue here, one thing that I like to do that I found really wonderful about Maya is, you know, there's that wonderful Snap To feature. I'm going to pretend I have a bunch of different building shapes. There are going to be some, you know, different variances, and I'm going to have a wide building. Maybe there's some type of weird back, long shape back here. So give me a second. Let me just make a couple of these shapes here really fast. One thing I really like about Maya is that I could sort of snap to and find something that I normally wouldn't have thought of. That might be a really great composition. So what I'm going to do here is just keep making a couple of really base shapes real quick here. 1 second. Let's extrude that out. Okay. Let's extrude it again. Okay, extrude again. Extrude again. Alright. That's a cool shape. That's a little different. I'm going to take this shape right here. Let's duplicate this guy. And what I'm going to do now is ungroup him. And I'll take this piece separate, group this together. I'm going to turn that separate. I'm going to take this shape here. Let's make him a little bit smaller. and then I'll make this longer, grab some of these detail points that are right in here, move these to the end, duplicate them, bring some down here. I'll just leave them like that for right now. Okay, and let me see if I can come over here and put this somewhere on the side of my shape here. Okay, let's go over here. Let's turn this exactly to 90 degrees. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to sort of arch this guy and see if I can't. Negative 90 here. Throw him down underneath. Okay, maybe around here to the side. Take this other loading ramp here. I'm going to make this a lot smaller. Bring this back. Maybe it's part of another structure that's in here. Okay. All right. I love loading arms that look like they're long and skinny that are coming down into a composition. There's a lot you can do with those. Let's duplicate that shape. Let's make them a little bit thicker. There we go. All right, I'm just trying to make some other variations here. Let's bring this. Okay, so now look at what I've done. I've just gone in here, and I have tons of little shapes around here, and I can move these around. And now what I like to do, this is that snap feature, where I like to touch an area, like this little ship right here. I touch it, and if I hit F, it frames me to that view, and then I find if I angle around, I might find something that I wouldn't have thought of in terms of composition. I mean, that could be a really cool element right there. I'm looking down, but I might need to adjust a couple things. I'm going to have a block shape here. I'm not sure what this was for. What if I move that down? What if I come in here, I take my ship and I rotate my ship a little bit? Okay. Yeah, I've always been really big on foreground. So I like, I might want to have that guy down low like this. And look at that. That's a great angle right there for me to start working from. Okay. Is it right now, look at this. I have something here in the foreground. I could have a small guy right here, little scale. And then if I look back here, look at the size of my ship. It's huge. And then I have some other building pieces behind it. Right now, I don't even need to worry about those building pieces. I could come in and do that a little bit later. So let's come in here and let me see. I might just take a real quick render of this. Get that ship shape that's right in there. Where was I? Just a reminder, if you happen to get a ship, an angle of view on your camera you really like and you accidentally miss it, hit the bracket keys and it can bring you back. Okay. And you could find a particular shot or angle that you had. So if I hit this and go back a couple times, it sort of gets me locked in. That's about something that I was about close to thinking about. Let me move this over a little bit here. There we go. So let's say that this was docked and there's all these loading bays going to it. There's this huge ship right here. And then I have some other type of structure here. Again, remember the rule of thirds about dividing up my composition, right? So if I have this ship shape that's up here in sort of this upper quadrant, right, this upper third right here, down here in the lower, it'd make a great position for this ship to be here, okay? Or perhaps for me to even have something down over here lower or even back behind, even having this guy sort of floating around back there. If I wanted to, I can even take this guy, Okay, put him in the back. So let's go back to my top view real quick. Okay, if I'm going to bring him back here, put him way in the back here of my scene. There we go. Have him. Let's get him up here for a minute. Okay. There we go. Can have another one of these guys down back here, turn the other way. Okay. And let's go back. Let's put a resolution gate on that. I'm putting a resolution gate on my perspective view as well, just for the fun of it. There. So let's move this over here. Okay. So right now, that could be a fun composition right there. Use your shapes to arrange and come up with the best possible ideas that you can have for creating something that's visually interesting and appealing. Okay. And if that doesn't work, and you're trying to think of something that's more interesting, go for a whole nother angle. So let's record some of these. Let's render them real quick and we'll save them. Okay. You know what? Hold on a minute. It's let me pause here. It's putting the render window on the secondary screen, which isn't showing in Windows. So let me adjust the screen resolution real quick, and then we'll get it up here. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to come in here and just start doing some renders and figuring out where the best composition might be, and I can create multiple cameras. So here is that main camera that I had, and I thought, you know what, that's a pretty cool, could be a cool composition. And then when I just spin around a little bit, and I came down at that type of angle like that, I mean, I like that angle, I like looking down. See that angle that comes in here, and then I have this large ship shape that's right here in the corner, and I have some other small. That's pretty cool too. So I'm going to go ahead, let's render that up right now. Okay, so again, these are just real rough renders. Okay, so I can come in here and save my render that I have, and I can look at that, and I realize, you know what, maybe I want something a little bit more on this side here. So I can come over here, let's save the render real quick, and then I might decide to grab this shape right here. Let's go back to my top view here. I might bring this over a little bit more, get it placed in about here. Again, have fun with it. Just dive into this. You know, this is the blocking phase. This is where we really just want to spend, you know, what does it look like if we're looking, go for something you normally wouldn't think of. You might get a better solution that way. What if I'm looking under the ship like this, okay, sort of this three-point perspective upshot. Imagine if there's a loading dock open right here and I had a whole bunch of these other ship shapes. Okay, let me bring them up closer to me. They could create a lot more depth in my piece here. Okay. There we go. See, I can get some really cool So imagine from this particular angle right here, if I have this just giant, you know, hole in the ship, and these ships are going up and they're dropping off cargo, maybe they're getting ready to take off. Let's see if I can't duplicate. I'm going to grab this piece down here, see if I can bring it somewhere here in the foreground and use it a little bit. So let me split up here to another view, see if I want to grab that shape. Maybe I bring it over here, rotate it a little bit, find a place for it to fit into my composition. There we go. See, that can be really cool like that. I have some overlapping shapes. So coming back here, let me do a render this. I like this. I could have a couple guys standing right here, you know, working on screens, and then I have these ships here, and I have this giant mothership shape that's right in here. And if, you know what, if I wanted to, I could even enlarge the mothership. There's no guidelines right now. I mean, it's open. Look at that. I can have it take a huge part of the composition, move it over back about right here, and then I could have guys working down here. I have shapes overlapping other shapes that create a lot of depth inside my piece. So let's just do a quick render of that. See where we end up. Okay, and here's our render. Okay, that's great. That's something I could easily work from. Now, let's say for any of you guys that are working, let's say for some reason you don't like the background color right now, that's not really an issue to me. We could easily go in there and change that to white. All you have to do is select the camera and the outliner, click Control A for attributes, go down to that setting, and then change the environment color. Okay, that's not really as important, but if you're going to do a direct paint over on this, you could change that. So let me keep this one right here. Okay, here I'll show you an example of that real quick, just in case anyone wanted to do it. I'm going to scroll up here. This render right now is done in my perspective view, so if I click perspective, hit Control A, I bring up the attributes. I'm going to drop down over here. I'm going to find the environment output setting right there. Double click on color, click white right now, and then that's it. Just, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Back there. Here it is. It's done. I'm going to close that out. And now I'm going to go ahead and change my angle right here. And again, try snapping to something. Try to go from far out and just go like this and go boop, and zoom in there and see what you might happen to get. And then move your camera around. Sometimes you come up with the best angles that way, just out of happy accidents, you know, that you weren't. I mean, we have a tendency to want to pick compositions around, you know, around a safety net. We want to compose around things that we're used to, movies we've seen, games that we play, experiences that we have. So that's the benefit sometimes of being able to come in there and find a composition that we weren't really thinking of. That's pretty cool. Like right there, I'm looking up, have the small ship shape. I can come over here, add another element or two in the foreground. Okay, so I'm just wondering right now. I actually like that quite a bit. That could be a lot of fun. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit here. Let's close our outliner here. Let's go back to multi-perspective view here. Okay. If I drop that down a little bit like that, you could have some guys walking on that, looking up the ship. There we go. Remember, if you had to pull out to move something, hit your bracket, and it'll bring you back to the camera angle that you just had. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I like what's happening there. I got a little ship, you know, down here. I don't want to have a tangency with it, so what I'm going to do is just sort of bring it up here. See if I can't bring it more to my immediate foreground. There we go. That's pretty cool. I'm going to point it in the direction of the ship here. Let's duplicate that. And I'm going to bring that one over here. Push that way back in there. Maybe it's underneath, fueling up part of the ship right in there. Okay, like that. All right, I have another one back here. I can even I can scale it down to make it look like it's a totally different ship in here. Create some really cool size relations. Okay, so what I'm looking for now is I'm looking for large visual reads. It's obvious in my composition right now. What am I going for in here? I'm going to be looking at the key ship shape. Everything else is going to be secondary. If I break it down into my rule of thirds, you know, try to work. There's my render that I just did of it. Okay, that's a great little block in right there. So far I'm 30 minutes into this. And let's just see what I have in terms of composition. Okay, I kept that one. So to keep my renders, I hit that little green button. If you hold your icon over, it'll say keep image. So look, if I come over here, right, these are the different ones I have. I have that one. I have that render where we're like looking up at the ship. There's one where I'm looking sort of straight at the ship. Here's another one where I was more of a side view with the ship on the side here. Okay, so there's 4 renders that give me this one I like a lot right now. So if I like that view that I have right here, I'm going to go ahead and save this. File, save scene as. It's a really lightweight scene. It's not heavy at all. I'm going to call this my scene dock version and put a 2 in there. Okay. Sometimes I like to use LU for looking up or DS for downshot. Gives me a better idea of what I saved. So I'm going to put LU after that for looking up. Okay. Save that file as. And I'm just going to come in here. You know, what if I get a shot like this? Just need to see what other shots I might be able to get. What other compositions could be really cool. I like the idea of there being some type of other structures. let's just do something totally different. Every now and then you have to just break out of the box and try something normally that you wouldn't do. So what I'm going to do right now is turn this at a 90-degree angle and just make it look like my ship is just, you know, maybe this thing was just like made and there's tons of these long shapes around it. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pitch some of these at different angles, see what I come up with. Okay, put one here. Let's go ahead, I'm going to take another one, move it over back this way. I could come back later. If I get something that looks really cool, I'll come back later and I could attach it and figure out how it works, you know? Right now, I'm just trying to figure out, let's just get a good block in of something that's working really cool. I'm going to try to get some contrapposta happening in here, get some turn and some variations of shapes. Okay. Let's see if I can over here. What if I turn one of these like this? Just put it vertical right here. Okay, let's put this at 180. There we go. Okay, get that locked up. Now, same thing here. I got my view. I can come in here. I was curious, like, what if I came up at a top view and I was looking down like this on it? And if I get this over here, maybe this becomes a little bit larger. I have something now in my immediate foreground and part of my composition. Okay, I have this cool shape here. Let me go ahead and let me group part of that. Oops, I didn't mean to do all that. I meant to just take that guy off. Let's group that back together. See if I can pull that out of the picture frame a little bit. There we go. Sort of lock up in here, see what I get. Could be a fun angle, like in here, looking from a back point of view. Just spin around. That could be a fun shot right there, and if I had something immediate in the foreground like that, it's pretty cool. Right there. Let's render that guy up. Okay, save him. Let's come back here. Let's do another. Let's position to maybe the back, the side, flip over. Look at that, even going upside down, I might totally get something that I wasn't even thinking of. That was, again, happy accidents are always wonderful. So I'm going to render that. I actually like that composition right there. I adjusted a little bit, but I like having that large shape, the small shapes, what's open in there. Okay, so let me come over here. Let me see if I can adjust that a little bit, pull out here. That's pretty cool. Let's try that one. Okay, got that in there. Let's keep that guy. Let's try a couple zoom ins. Let me hit his ship. Just hit F. I'll zoom into it and then look down and see what that ship's seeing. Nah. Oops. Move that out of here. Okay, so that's fun. That angle that's right in there with the big ship here, that could be really cool. Okay, so let's render that up. Uh-oh, where'd our render go? Here we are. That's a great look at that composition. See how nice that can be? Setting that up, or I could just have something down, have the ship underneath. Okay. All right. So now real quick, one of my concerns with this would be, I want to try to keep my detail down to a minimum. So I want to have detail closer to my eye and then have other things fade off. So after I mess around with some of these variations and I go back and I look at some of my renders and see what ideas that I came up with in terms of composition and setting up my camera, then I might go back in there, pick one that I like, and then start to spend a little bit more time, another 20 minutes, really setting up the scene, figuring out what I'm going to be looking at, what are going to be secondary shapes that are going to be further in the background, that are going to be, further away in atmospheric perspective, that aren't going to be that interesting to me, versus what's going to be close, and what am I going to see quickly. Let me save that real quick. File, let's save this scene as, and we'll call this version 3. Okay. This is the benefit of working with a 3D program. It gives you the ability to block in and create all kinds of really cool renders, and figure out your camera actions, your camera movement. That could be a fun shot. That one of the ships flying, one back there. A couple people standing here. Bridge going at an angle. Some other ship shapes here. In fact, I like that a lot. What I like about that is that now my ship has detail in it, and then I have my model I've already done in the foreground here. So you know, let's talk about, this would be the importance of setting up our scene correctly, where now I have a model in front of me that has a lot of detail on it. This has detail, and then all these shapes in the back here, they become sort of secondary because they're way in the background there, right? They don't have to have too much detail. They're just going to be what I always refer to as, we're going to be looking at their silhouette shapes. What's interesting or visually appealing about those shapes. And now the model of my vehicles here, of what's directly next to me in the foreground, and my ship details, all that's going to read inside my composition. Okay? I mean, look at that. That's great right there. I mean, it looks like this guy took off. There could be another guy refueling something over here. I could have a little arm coming up here to this. Let's render that off. Okay? All right, there it is, render's done. Let's take a look at what we have right here. Okay. I like that composition quite a bit. I mean, there's a couple things to fix. I wanted it more of an angle. This is competing with this shape, so I can make one larger or smaller. That's no problem. Okay. But I can easily come in here. Let's do that. What if I turn my ship a little bit at an angle like this? Okay. All right. I like this angle happening right in through here, splitting up the composition nicely. What if I just take this guy right here? And what if I move him up, bring him over here? I don't even know if I really even need him right now. I might find another shape or something to put over here. What if I turn him a little bit? That could be cool. There we go. Let's get that back in there. Okay, there. So I think I'll go ahead and stop here, but look at what I have. I mean, let's render that guy out, see what we get really quick. That could be a great little composition for me to work from. Okay, so I've spent 30 minutes doing this. What are we at? Now we're about 40 minutes now. But let's just look at the variations of shapes that I have for my composition. By trouble thinking this now, I mean, I got that composition. Here's the other one. It was turned a little bit. I have this cool down shot of a composition. I got this where I'm sort of looking at it straight on. Okay. Here's one where I'm a little bit zoomed off to one side. There's one where I'm really close on just the side of the ship coming in there. I sort of like that. What if the ship was so huge it just took up the whole left-hand side of the composition right there? Okay. There's a lower angle. There's one where I was looking up at it. Okay. There's one where I'm looking just at the front of the ship as if it's coming in. All right. So lots of options there for me to pursue and think about. This is probably one I like the most right now. Okay. But let's try spinning around a little bit, see if we come up with something else that might be really cool. Like a low angle shot. What if we're like down here looking up? And there's a bridge and people are walking onto the ship or something. So here, let's try something different. Let's completely change our ship shape. Now it's this sort of massive, very tall shape, which it could totally be. Oops. My bad. Let's stretch it out a little bit more. There we go. That's pretty cool. And then you have all these little, I'm going to come right back to that camera angle in a second here. Let's grab these little ships, put them over here. There we go. Get some other little ships up in here. I could have something like a walking platform right here at an angle, and then I have this giant, you know, ship here with all these little ships around it, something in the midground right here. So all I have to do is, let me see if I can get this down, bring it over a little bit more. Actually, it's going to be easier if I just sort of bring it like this. Let's go back to our other angles here. See if I can slide that over. There we go. Let's bring it up a little bit more in our composition. There we go. So that could be really, it could be like little people walking down here, all different variations. So I'm going to go ahead, let's take a render of that. Okay, and there it is, rendered, finished. Okay, another composition to work from. I don't like this coming in right here, so I'm going to see if I can't pull that out and down a little bit more. About like here. Okay? Cool. I don't like that horizontal right in there either, now that I look at it. So let's go ahead, let's minimize that. Let's take this, and I want to enhance that composition in the direction that it's going in. What if I have a platform that's going in this direction here, and there's guys standing on it? Maybe it overlaps part of the ship, maybe it doesn't. Okay? Or it could be in the back there like it's hooking up to part of the ship. Let me make it a little bit thinner. Maybe there's a couple of them going up. Okay. There we go. Let's still render that. Okay. There we go. It's another variation for me to work off of right there. Another composition. Okay. I don't really like the ship shape there, but you guys get the point. You get the idea from this point on. All right, so let me go ahead. Let's stop the video. Again, go back and, you know, looking at all these options here. Hold on a minute. Let me bring this back down. I mean, look at this. I really like that composition there. That's a great shot there. I got another shot over here. I got tons of variations here just from quickly going through and thinking about variations that I could do. Spend the hour. I've spent, what, maybe 40 minutes now in this, blocking out some shapes. Do this. Find a composition you like. Create that secondary camera. Go around your scenes. Find something. And then work from that camera and model your scene. Okay? And that's, just to wrap this up, the importance of doing this is that from a particular angle or a scene or a shot, is that if I come back over here and go to my perspective view right now, let's go in your perspective, look at the main, that sees something totally different. Okay? My view, the viewer isn't necessarily going to see this angle. They're going to see the angle that was provided by the visual development artist and the concept art. Okay? They might only see this ship from this angle. They might only see it from this angle. Okay? Whatever angle they end up seeing that ship, that's all that matters, is that I go in there and I display that for the viewer. Okay? So I don't have to be concerned about, you know, if I have this shape where I'm looking underneath right now, I have this large ship and I have all this other stuff in the back, I don't have to care about what the angle is in the back. I don't care what buildings are back there. I can just throw it in, piece it together, put it in there for the render, and go from there. And then paint on top of it. Okay? I like that one, by the way. Let's render that guy up. See what we come with. Uh-oh, got all black again on me, so what I'm going to do is, just real quick here, let's go in, let's find that other camera. It's going to be down here on the bottom. No, it's not. Where'd it go? Here it is. It's main. Let's select main real quick. Attributes. Let's go into the color setting here. Let's put it on white. Okay, it's done. Let's render that again. There we go. All right. And let's save that too. Okay. All right. That's it for the demo. Thanks, guys.